I did finally get around to seeing a movie that's in the Oscar conversation, which everyone else in the whole world has seen by now. And that,
well, good. We can talk about it fully.
That's you guys have talked about it. It's Hell or High Water. I've always been out of the conversation because I hadn't seen it yet. But my friend got the Blu-ray, and I was like, "Do not watch it until I can come over and watch it with you." And
oh my God!
Sat down and watched it together.
And
I mean, it's a very look. I don't understand anyone that would criticize it. I mean, it is a very good genre movie.
Right.
It is.
And by no fault of its own, it's being heaped with an enormous amount of praise that I don't think it can lay claim to. Like, it's being imbued with this significance and this meaning.
Mm-hmm. Exactly.
And that's not the movie's fault. The movie is a really good genre picture, and it does have like running touches of the economic crash and that kind of thing. But most movies about bank robbers do.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, again, that's what I said. Like about Bonnie and Clyde did that. So, you know,
I think
it could very well be on my top 10 favorite movies of the year.
Definitely be on my
there's
top
nothing,
10.
I don't think there's anything wrong with it. It's beautiful. It's beautifully shot. Actually, the sense of setting is really, really well done in it.
Even though it wasn't shot in Texas.
Great.
It wasn't shot in Texas.
But it does feel. I mean, it does feel authentic. I mean, wherever it was shot, it does feel like a community, like a farming community. It's almost like if they made the movie Country into a bank robber thriller.
No, of course. I think it's you know what the problem is, and it goes to that person that you always have that one friend that says, you know, I didn't see any good movies this year, and you ask what the movies they saw were, and they, you know, it's I saw Independence Day 2, I saw, you know, all these sequels or whatever. And of course you didn't see any good movies this year. But you asked, did you see this one, or did you see The Neon Demon, or The Lobster, or Arrival, or Anthropoid? You know what I'm saying? You know, if you're just going to see, you know, like the big movies,
you're not going to see any good movies.
Yeah, you're going to see and this year you really saw a lot of bad movies. I mean, if that's what you're going on. I
mean, anyone that pays to see Independence Day 2 is. And that's their only source of nourishment. They're not going to find pleasure in the Neon Demon. But
I love the Neon Demon, though.
Very few people are going to love that movie.
I'll say this about Hell or High Water. It felt to me, which is a shame because I've heard so much about it before I actually was able to see it. It felt to me like a great discovery of a movie in the same way that Breakdown years ago was.
Yeah,
because
that's a great example. You expected it to be this kind of typical genre movie, and it's an exceptional example of that genre. You know, it's wildly entertaining, empathetic characters, funny, tragic. It's good. Yeah. Oh, I completely agree, and in its own way about the separation of classes and stuff. So, also that's a great comparison, I think. I mean, again, my reaction to Hell or High Water was really a reaction, I guess, to just that praise that was being heaped on it, which, again, I don't think that it deserves quite that kind of praise. You know, I don't think it's a movie that's emblematic of our times or anything like that.
I disagree with that. I think this is the movie that called the election in some ways. I really do believe that. Not that's not the filmmaker's intent, though, but I do think this movie set the mood for the country. You know, movies, once they leave the studio, once they leave, let's say, the editing bay, they do take on a life of their own. I do think this film was a precursor of things to come. I really do believe that. Now, do I?
So you're saying that it's a film version of the Trump voters' view of America?
Yes, I do think that, because that had been percolating obviously much longer than we thought. It had been percolating probably since, let's be very honest, that kind of viewpoint, and it's brought up one or two scenes in the movie, has been percolating since the late '80s.
Mm-hmm.
We're not using. How do I say it? This whole thing starts, if we're going to look at rural America, with the farming crisis in this country. So let's do it. I'm not saying
early '80s.
The early '80s, when the farms are being foreclosed on. So it's something that's been going on for decades. Now, am I saying? Now, I'm sure maybe the filmmakers might have looked into that, but no. When the movie leaves the realm of the artist, like a book or an album or whatever, we do inject our own thoughts and our viewpoints into it. But what I am saying is I do think there is something here. There was something in this movie that did set the tone for this election year. Was it on purpose? No, of course not. But it just, you can't help but read into it.
Would you say that the vehemently anti-Trump voter,
anti-Trump or pro-Trump voter?
Anti-Trump voter, in order to understand where the Trump voter is coming from, need only see Hell or High Water?
No. I think to understand it, to start with Hell or High Water, but there are much books and movies. There are lots of other things to begin with. But I do think as a jumping off point, Hell or High Water is certainly a good place to start. It is not a be-all, end-all, not by any stretch of the imagination. But I do think when we see a movie like this, and there are movies like this that come along that someone has made these movies. Jeff Nichols is another example who, Mud or Shotgun Stories, or we have neglected this part of the country. So there are these filmmakers, or David Gordon Green, for instance, early on, his earlier film, that do look at this part of America that, there is we have neglected this part of the country. No, I think first of all, to lump the Trump voter into one movie or one book is a wrong thing. That's wrong to do to anybody, any group. But I do think it's a good starting out point to say, hey, not everything's hunky-dory in America. Okay. That's what I mean. No, I don't. Okay. I certainly don't mean that. That would be, I think, disingenuous of any group of people to do that.
Okay.
Well, and I think when you see interviews with the stars and everything, I haven't read an interview with the director of it, but they're all very skittish about talking about the political implications of it, because for them, it's not presented to hold that kind of significance. And I think maybe the biggest illustration of what you're talking about, the themes you're talking about, is what his Indian partner says while they're staking out the bank.
Yes.
And, essentially they screwed us, and, we need to screw them, and that's what they essentially do by paying them back with the money that they steal from them.
Yeah.
But, there's nothing new that's...
No, it's nothing new.
You go back to Robin Hood. I don't think
Robin Hood. But I think what's very interesting...
I don't think that Hell or High Water is not prophetic. It's reflective, but the movie isn't... your movie can be about something, or it can just have that in it.
No, Hell or High Water would have come out regardless of whether Trump was running for president or not.
Yeah.
It just happens that when he was, but that scene that you're talking about could have easily, that would have been. That goes back to 2008, and maybe even before that, when he says, "Well, those people did that, those people," but when he points to the bank and he turns to Jeff Bridges, "But those people killed your people," and it's that scene is, I hate to say it, that scene could have easily been written in 1936 in America. Okay,
and let's just be fair, it could have easily been left out of this movie.
It could have been. Dean,
but it is a good scene. I think
it's a credit. But you're absolutely right, Dean.
Put that in.
Absolutely.
Mm-mm. Yeah, they could have just not had it.
But Jeff Bridges is good. Let me say this about Jeff Bridges real quick. Undeniably, he's a great actor. I love Jeff Bridges. And I've talked about him graduating to this class of playing an old coot in every movie he does now. And I guess that's the Jeff Bridges we're going to get from now on. But I do think whatever's going on with his nasal cavity is a hindrance. I do think it's a problem. He sounds like he can absolutely not breathe. Like, you know what I'm talking about?
There's definitely a mouthful.
Yes, I do. Yes,
there's
I
definitely
do.
a mouthful of marbles kind of effect going on. But yeah,
and it's become accentuated in his older age. And I do think it's the more affectations you have, and the more obvious your affectations are, the harder it is for you to disappear into a different character effectively.
Yeah, I agree. You know what I did love? What I loved, that nobody. I mean, I think people do respond to it, but I mean, the Gil Bellingham as his partner is tremendous.
Yeah.
In the movie, and really should be considered, supporting actor kind of consideration here, but. The little roles given to other actors in the movie that are just in it for one scene, particularly that woman that plays the waitress, and probably what I consider to be, I think that's the best scene in the movie, but and just some of the people that they talk to along the way in their investigation, the other waitress in the other place, and just the first Dale Dickey is the first lady that was working at the bank, the first bank that gets held up.
Right.
Just all sorts of little performances in there that are terrific. That when
they are,
yeah.
And they really are. I mean, that's a major contributor to establishing that sense of place too. Are the character actors. And the little moment where, if you watch Jeff Bridges in the scene where he's interrogating the waitress, and you see him like looking down her blouse because she's very bountiful.
Yeah.
And it's very subtle, but you see him like looking down her blouse a couple of times during that scene.
Yeah. That's interesting. I don't think I noticed that, but it's going to be a movie that when I watch it again, I'm going to enjoy it. But I really do believe, again, I have to make this my final point on it. I really believe that one of the reasons that it's been held up so high in critical community, and maybe been attributed some things that really are not really there, but is the fact that it's the first movie. It was really the first movie to bring in the fall season. This is kind of the first movie that says, okay, now we're done with dragons and superheroes. That season's over. Now we're going to get a serious movie, and people who flocked to it, loved it because it was like getting a meal after being starved for a long time.
Right.
Well, yeah, and also it's a quality movie. It's a really good movie that isn't elitist. I mean, it's something that everyone can appreciate. It's not artsy or
It remembers to entertain.